Good morning, Metaverse. I'm Thor the Red Hand, and this episode is actually going to be answering a question that I received in a previous video in the comment section. So feel free to drop questions that you have in the comment section below. I actually really enjoy answering and thinking about these the harder questions, especially that really challenge what I believe and force me to explain it. And as a result, I think this episode could end up being a very good tool for anybody that is thinking about getting into Star Atlas, or if someone who has been in Star Atlas for a while, but is having a hard time understanding where the value comes from for these NFT ships, how this economy works, and why it's, what's the big deal of being a Web3 game versus a Web2 game? Is it just, hey, we're trying to sell the fact that we're on a crypto game? Is that all that you got? Or is there a more to this? And so let's go to the question, and then we'll answer it step by step. And hopefully by the end of it, you can have a really good tool and a good understanding of that value coming from Star Atlas. Okay, so the question comes from Jeremy J5932. And he says, from what I understand, the game needs current investors who lost money buying in to make more money to buy more assets. But won't those investors just lose more money by rolling over their earnings into NFTs? I feel like Star Atlas set really greedy prices, which hinder development and handicap investors. You invest $30,000 into an NFT, and immediately it devalues to $8,000 because it was never worth $30,000. But now you can earn on your $8,000, but if you roll it into another NFT, you just lose again. The main issue to me is the pricing for this crypto game seems way off, especially when you compare this game's benchmark called Star Citizen. You can get a Javelin Destroyer, which is the biggest ship in that game, for $2,500, and they actually have gameplay. Now, I appreciate this question for a couple different reasons. One, I like Star Citizen and Star Atlas both. I think they're both great projects. And I'm glad he asked it that way because it's how a lot of people think about comparing the two projects. So we'll talk about that. Also, I think Jeremy has his eyes on the right items. Where's the value? Why is this $30,000 NFT now worth $8,000? And why would I want to get into a project where the value of my assets are devaluing? So I think those are really good questions, and let's see if we can answer them. So let's start with actually the last part of this question, which it talks about the Star Citizen to Star Atlas comparison and using Star Citizen as a benchmark. I think that is correct, or a good benchmark to use for Star Atlas in regards to the graphics, in regards to the gameplay, being a multiplayer, massive space game. To take or to use the Star Citizen gameplay as the benchmark is exactly what Star Atlas should be doing, because it's the best space game out there right now, very arguably. Even though it's still in development, what they have done is on the same scale as the vision that Star Atlas has come out with, and it is a beautiful game. And so that is a good. That's where the benchmark, where I use it as a benchmark. But that's kind of where it stops for me. Now there is a resource that I'm going to recommend that people actually watch. This video that was on economics design. And it was a video that Christopher Smith, who is on the Star Atlas economic team, he did this interview and talked about the ecosystem and actually really articulated the core difference between a Web 2 game and a Web 3 game, where you have a closed economy versus an open economy. And So I recommend that you listen to that. But I'm going to give my best articulation of that concept. And so for a closed economy, we have, Star Citizen, really cool video game. You can go in and buy a package. This package is $1,100, the most expensive one that I saw on the website right off the bat. But you get multiple ships, you get a bunch of in-game currency, and a bunch of add-ons. And so this could very well provide anybody who is really excited about Star Citizen with everything they need to play and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And so the value for Star Citizen really comes because it has that gameplay, right? It actually has gameplay, and it has really cool gameplay, regardless of the bugs. It is still a really cool game. But because it's a closed economy, once you put that $1,100 in, it doesn't come back out. There's no way to extract it back out in any way. No matter how much time you spend building up your empire in Star Citizen, you're not going to be able to take any of that time that you put into it back out in value in any other form. There are some markets where you can try to sell ships and sell accounts and that kind of stuff. But that's really kind of getting into the web 2, where it's a lot more shady. There's a lot of trust that's involved in those transactions. It's not easy. And that's the biggest problem with a closed system that you see in a web 2 game, where for Star Atlas, you have an open economy. And what that means is, first of all, I'm going to earn from my NFTs. So I'm going to use the R8 as the example throughout this video because I've actually I've purchased an R8. I've done this. I've staked it. I make about 402 Atlas net a day that comes into my wallet, and that wallet is tied into an open economy. I can sell my R8 for a dollar value in USDC. I can sell it in Atlas. Okay, so if I sold it in Atlas, it's an open economy, so I can go to an exchange like Radium, where I can convert my Atlas into USDC, which is a US dollar pegged cryptocurrency. I can then take my USDC and send it to, say, a centralized exchange like Coinbase. And from Coinbase, I can extract it into my wallet, into my bank account, and then use it in the real world. It's an open open economy. Okay, so that is a major difference between Star Citizen and Star Atlas. That's why you can get the biggest ship in Star Citizen for $2,500, where in Star Atlas you can get a large ship, which is by no means the largest ship you can get. The larger ships, I mean, I guess the Titans are the biggest ones, but the largest ship in comparison would be a commander ship. And, a commander ship is on the market right now for $24,000. Okay, so 10 times the cost of the equivalent biggest ship in Star Citizen. Okay, so that is Star Citizen to Star Atlas comparison. Star Citizen is the benchmark for fun, which is an important part. This is a video game, remember, so fun is very important. Ultimately, the thing that you are hoping for, your vision of Star Atlas, is that it will also be fun eventually as the playable game modules come out. But then you can't use Star Citizen as the benchmark for the financial value that you get in Star Atlas. Okay, so it's the financial value that then makes the price much higher because it is in dollars. It's not measured in fun. And so let's take a look at the earning potential of Star Atlas assets, and specifically the R8. So I'm going to go over to a spreadsheet that I made. Okay. So we have this spreadsheet, and right now the price for Atlas is roughly $0.0029 or less than a third of a cent. And you can find that real quick. You go on something like CoinGecko, and you can get the history. So its current value is just a little above what I put in, so that's fine. And then we'll also look at this to answer some other questions. But with this spreadsheet, I show my R8 that I purchased for $10,800, and then another R8. I purchased one for a little bit under $3,000, so it's actually it's pretty close to what it is market price right now. And so, regardless of what you buy it for, origination price or on the secondary market, it earns the same amount of Atlas. Atlas is worth, on an open economy, it's worth less than a third of a cent, which means I make $1.17 a day. It means over the course of the year, if the price of Atlas doesn't change, if at the end of the year it ends up being the same amount, and I've been stockpiling this Atlas up the entire time, I haven't sold it yet, and then at the end of the year, price hasn't changed, I'll be able to sell it and make $426, which is a 4.2% rate of return. That's a pretty low rate of return. It's something you would expect for a more low-risk investment vehicle, like an IRA, where you have a diversified portfolio. Note, this is not financial advice. This is just how I think about it, and hopefully helping you visualize it. If I purchased it at a lower price, right? So if I'm an investor, or if I purchase an asset and then I make more money and I buy an asset again, why would I ever do that? Well, because if I purchase at a lower price, I'm earning the same amount at the end of the year, but the return on investment is higher, just because the purchase price was lower. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I don't think that the price is going to stay the same. We are in a bear market, and hopefully we are at the bottom of the bear market. I do not know. Crypto is a very risky asset class. It's very volatile. It could go down more from here. But if I make the assumption or might build a thesis based off of the price of Atlas is going to increase over the course of the year, then I'm going to put in the price I'm predicting it to be. Now, could Atlas reach 1 cent by the end of this coming year, at the end of 2023? We'll find out whether that's a smart thought later down the road. I can look back on this video and laugh, or to the bank, or laugh and cry. But let's say it's 1 cent. Well, now my $10,000 R8 is making 14% rate of return if I hold my Atlas and sell once it's worth 1 cent. And the one that I purchased for a much lower is now making a 63% rate of return. Okay, that's a much better rate of return. And this is what I compare it to. I do real estate, so I have rental properties. If I was going to put the money into a rental property instead of the crypto asset, the NFT, then I'm going to put it in something like this. This is an actual property that I own. I bought it for $45,000. I put $20,000 into it for repairs to get it up to rentable standards. I rent it. I make a net $675 a month, $8,100 a year. That's a 12.5% rate of return. Real estate is a much lower risk than cryptocurrency, and a lot more lower risk than a developing video game. And so I see that as actually a really good rate of return, and I'm happy with that. But there's no fun in that. Well, I enjoy real estate in general, but it is a lot more to manage. It's a lot harder to manage, and so. If I think that the value of this R8 is going to increase to a higher rate of return to offset the risk, and I think that the game is going to end up being a fun game to play, well, then now it's starting to make sense that I might put my money into that asset. And so that's where the value comes from. In Star Citizen, if I put that money in Star Citizen, it's a closed economy, and so my rate of return is 0. I get fun, but there's no way to quantify fun. It's a qualitative aspect. It's something that you kind of judge for yourself. Um, and I also think that Star Atlas is going to be fun as well. So that is going to compete over time. So let's go and make sure that I answered the question. So that for me kind of answers the part about the Star Atlas really sets greedy prices. Greedy prices is really not looking at its history and how the $30,000, where's that value come from? Well, it comes from its rate of return, essentially, right? And how it immediately dropped down to 8,000. Well, it didn't immediately drop it down to 8,000. Let's take a look at the history of the Atlas token. Because those ships are directly tied to the value of Atlas because they earn the Atlas. It started out up here in the 15, let's see, the 7 to the 20 cent mark. It was all up and down this for about half of a year, the first several months of the project. And so that means, let's just say take 10 cents as my average in this time period. The earning potential of my R8 in that time period, we put this 10 cents in, or this is 1 cent. Let's put 10 cents in. And so my R8, when I bought it for $10,000, was making me 146% rate of return. I was perfectly fine with that. Was that a greedy asking price from Star Atlas? Well, with where the price of Atlas was at that time, no, that wasn't a real greedy price, in my opinion. Now, over time, as it devalued, as the price went down, price discovery decided that that value was too high, and then the bear market hit, and then we have the third of a cent. Okay, 4% is not enough to make me want to put $10,000 into an asset. So now that price seems, well, we'll say greedy or unrealistic, way off, right, from where a reasonable price would be. And so that happened over the course of time. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at why these prices were chosen. Now, I am actually in favor of the fact that Star Atlas, if you look at the market, you go to a ship that hasn't sold its full stock. They still have that listed for $10,000, the large ship. The secondary market has priced it below that, selling for $3,000. But the Atlas team has kept their prices consistent. So it's not greedy, it's being consistent. And I appreciate that because that doesn't, the development team is not undercutting the secondary market, the people that are choosing to sell it for less. Now they're taking a loss. Some of them probably are, depending on when they bought that ship, and that's their choice. That is the risk that you have, and there is definitely a big risk when you have the actions of an economy. When you have this open economy, you have the risk of that asset devaluing. Okay, but I'm actually, I think that's a good thing, the way that they priced it. So I wouldn't see it as a greedy price. I would actually see that as a responsible price as a development team. Now, just to make sure that I've answered this question fully, we've answered this in reverse. So coming up to the top part of the question, I understand that the game needs investors who lost money buying in to make more money to buy more assets. That happens for sure. I bought in early. I didn't sell, so I didn't realize my losses. But if I did sell, I would have lost money. I then would have to go out, work, make more money, and bring that into the asset. Well, I have bought in again. And so in a way, I've kind of gone through this, and that is one way that the project continues to get funded, people continuing to buy in. But that doesn't mean that you're going to lose. You're not necessarily going to have an asset asset that devalues, because over time, if we go from a bear market to a bull market where the market actually starts increasing in value, that where Atlas increases in value, if that happens, then we're not losing money. It's not devaluing. It's going from 8,000 up to 30,000 or whatever the actual numbers end up being. And so over the course of time, you don't know the future. And so that might be going up, it might be going down. But that is kind of how I see it and why people might continue to buy into the project if they think the future is bright. Another thing to think about now, as this game is developing, as we have your showroom, the Unreal Engine 5 development, you have Sage, which is the browser mini game where the real economy will ultimately start out and start bringing more utility to Atlas. I believe that there's going to be more areas and places to bring value in. Specifically with things like the land sale and the central space stations. Central space stations, I think, is going to be a great opportunity for investors or people that are bringing assets into the ecosystem, other than the current people that are buying ships. Because you can buy land and then you can set up shop and actually engage in transactions within that metaverse. And that is one of the ultimate vision goals for Star Atlas, is to be able to go into the Central Space Station, into commercial district, and actually do some shopping. Bring somebody in like Amazon to buy a land space and set up a store, or someone to set up their own store, their own e-business of some type that can tie into the video game. That is a resource bringing in that brings value to the community as a whole. So I think thinking about it from that standpoint is it's not the only way that this project ultimately will get funded or can sustain itself. As development happens, there are more avenues for capital to come in, and then for people to earn that value through playing the game and providing things that are beneficial in that game. Well, I hope that was helpful. If you're still with me and found the whole video helpful, I really appreciate the questions that people ask. If there's more questions that you have because you watched the video, leave them in the comment section. I'll actually enjoy answering those. Maybe make another video directly responding to those. Don't worry about liking or subscribing to this, but share it with somebody if you think that it would be helpful to them. Understanding Star Atlas, if they're curious about it. I'm happy that Jeremy reached out to me because he's thinking about getting into Star Atlas, and he's doing it intelligently. He's thinking. I want people to think. I want you to get into a project if it makes sense for you, if it matches what you are looking for. But it's important that people that are in the Star Atlas community now are able to articulate this to new people and can understand it for themselves, so they really know what they're a part of. So if you can do that, then yeah, today was a good day. Good morning, Metaverse.